The Mesa Chamber of Commerce Inside Business Podcast brings you a unique view of Mesa through its vibrant business community and the subjects that are important. The podcast is produced in the Mesa Chamber of Commerce Media Studio, sponsored by the University of Phoenix. Please enjoy this episode of the Mesa Chamber Inside Business Podcast.
Hello, everybody. This is Jeff Bear from Copa Health, and we're here again in another interesting installment about mental health advocacy. And today it is my great pleasure to have Matthew Moody with us. I've had the pleasure of knowing this gentleman for several years now and working alongside him on several projects. One of my favorites is The Bell. We'll get into that in a little bit. But Matthew, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and your journey in mental health advocacy, and then we'll go from there.
Absolutely. Firstly, it's just a pleasure to be here, and I'm very excited that you invited us to be here to talk about this. My name is Matthew Moody. I'm an Arizona resident. I've been here for 24 years. I am the president of a nonprofit organization called Mental Health America of Arizona, and we'll talk about that a little bit. I also currently work as a principal consultant for Advocates for Human Potential. We partner with organizations across the country to tackle complex behavioral health and social challenges. We help design and support programs that are people-centered, data-informed, and built long-lasting to make a difference. We have a Tempe-based office, and if you guys are interested in more of our work, we will be presenting at the Arizona Housing Coalition Conference next month. So I started out my career in mental health as a SMI case manager, so some of the stuff that COPA does, so helping people with some serious mental health issues. And then I started working at a crisis hotline here in Arizona that is now what's called 988. So I started working for a company that's based here in Tempe called Solari Crisis and Human Services. And I worked there for 12 years. I started out taking crisis calls, and we'll talk about what a crisis call is and what a 988 is and all that kind of stuff. But I took over 30,000 crisis calls, became a supervisor, and then worked into becoming a director where I helped lead expansion efforts into different states like Oklahoma. I also oversaw the mobile crisis team dispatch program here in Arizona, and just had a lot of crazy and fun experiences working with police departments and just expanding mental health care and access. So we're here today to talk a lot about Mental Health America and the work that we do and 988.
Well, that said, I understand there's some exciting things going on with Mental Health America Arizona chapter. Why don't you give us a little bit of an update on both personnel, and do you have an upcoming event of any kind?
We might have an upcoming event. I think the first thing to know about MHA, or Mental Health America of Arizona, is we are the oldest mental health organization in Arizona. This is our 71st anniversary this year. And one of the things that we do is education and advocacy for mental health conditions. And, we're really focused on just helping illuminate what people experience when they're having mental health conditions and advocating for them. So we're celebrating our 30-year anniversary of the SEEDS Conference, which is an event where we bring together mental health professionals, community leaders, and advocates to promote hope, wellness, and change. This year, our theme is elevating change in treatment systems and populations, and we're focusing on strengthening behavioral health responses and connecting Arizonans to life-saving resources. It's hosted at the 17th floor in Phoenix, which is an event venue. It's beautiful. It's on the 17th floor in downtown Phoenix. So we have this beautiful 360-degree view. We're very excited to have you guys be a part of it at COPA. And you can find out more information at mhaarizona.org. And we did just hire our new executive director, Mariah Heil, and she's just kicking butt. We're very excited to have her. Hopefully butt's okay to say on the record.
So somebody went to the SEEDS conference for the first time. What would they expect to see there?
So we're going to have a number of speakers that work in the mental health field that are going to try to educate you on different topics. So it could be anything from helping a family member or a friend experiencing mental health conditions, or specific conditions that somebody might have. And also sometimes we're providing some education to clinicians on how to do things better in their roles as well.
So can we drift back a little bit, and could you tell the audience a little bit about the MHA Hall of Fame and the bell and all of the good stuff that goes with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a really incredible part of being in the organization. But the MHA is a national organization that has 51 different state chapters. And the bell, there's a bell at the Washington D.C. office, which I got to go see last year. But it's a medium-sized bell. It's probably about 3 or 4 feet tall. And in the 1960s in our country, we started what was called deinstitutionalization, right? So it's the idea that we're ending institutions. Prior to that time, most people that had a mental health condition or a developmental disability were forced into a hospital and stayed there most of their lives. And sometimes they were chained to the walls. So, we've come a long way. But the bell, and the reason the bell is our logo, and the award that we give out is a small version of the bell, is they took some of the chains that were used to restrict people's movement in these facilities and melted them down and made a bell. And so the idea is that we're ringing the bell of freedom and we're liberating these people. So that's what the bell represents.
So what type of an honoree have you had in the past?
So we really focus on 2 different types. We have the Mental Health Lifetime Achievement Award, which typically goes to somebody that has had a huge impact on how systems in Arizona have been impacted. So Chick Arnold is a recipient. We've given one to Dr. Michael Franzak. Josh Mazel is an attorney that's done a lot of work here in town in a similar vein to Chick Arnold. And then also Andy Arnowitz got our Lifetime Achievement Award for advocacy. So Andy Arnowitz is an employee of Copa Health that's been around for a couple of decades, providing really good advocacy and direction to people that are experiencing mental health conditions, family and friends of people that are experiencing mental health conditions. So it's always an honor to honor these people for all this incredible work they've done that they might not get recognized for.
I'm glad you brought up Andy's name because the Mesa Chamber of Commerce, who is providing us with these podcasts, has very nicely agreed to letting us have another one, and Andy is going to be our guest.
Incredible. I just had lunch with him yesterday. He's awesome. I can't imagine. He's going to teach you some great stuff.
What is it about Andy that makes him so good? And remember, you're talking to people that don't know Andy and not necessarily what he does as a resource person. So break it down a little bit about why he's so good at what he does and what does he do.
Andy has an incredible understanding of what it's like to be somebody that has a mental health condition and struggles to find help for that. And he helps people understand how to navigate the systems that are out there, right? And we're lucky that there are a lot of options now to help people with mental health conditions, but it's a complicated, complex thing. And just, going through life's complicated, and going through life with a mental health condition and symptoms makes it even more difficult. And he can provide you really clear, simple to understand ideas on how to improve your mental health and how to get treatment and how to get help.
So I'm wondering, did you have any role models or anybody that inspired you in the mental health field, somebody that really pushed you to the level where you are now?
Wow, that's a great question. I think there's a lot of people that have inspired me. But I don't think there was ever someone that started it out. What happened is I was getting my bachelor's degree. I was going to ASU and getting a degree, and I didn't know what I wanted to get. And then one day I took a psychology class, and it really clicked for me. And that was the first time I remember being in school and being engaged. Like, I was always not engaged in school. I liked reading history books and, looking at comic books and stuff like that. But when I took a psychology course, it really clicked for me, and I started running in that direction. And then the first job I got out of school was an SMI case manager. And then I'm meeting with these people that have some really serious diagnoses and heavy symptoms. And you could see them making improvements and getting through the world. And you could see them, we called it recovery back in the day, but just, leading full lives. And that was such a beautiful experience. And I always wanted to get more of that. So that's why I went and got my counseling degree, is how can I help people make more effective change? And then I ended up working at the crisis line just as a side job while I was going to school for my master's degree, and it changed my life. So I really get inspired by anyone that overcomes their symptoms. I'm really inspired by anyone that does treatment for mental health, people with mental health conditions. And so I'm just constantly around people that inspire me every day. and I've had family and personal experience with mental health conditions as well. So all of those things probably add up to.
One of the terms you mentioned, I probably should have jumped in at the beginning. You said SMI, and SMI stands for seriously mentally ill. It's a designation. It's a medical designation that's given by doctors. That in a positive way, what it does is and correct me if I'm wrong, but what it does is it gets the patient access to more treatment, more programs, better care. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that SMI world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's something I always like to talk about is that Arizona has some of the best crisis mental health services in the country, and people come from all over the world to see what we do with the crisis work. But our SMI system is really powerful as well. And if someone is deemed SMI, they have to go through a process where there's they review records and see how bad their symptoms are. But when they're deemed SMI in the state of Arizona, they get access to free psychiatry, they get case management, they have rehab specialists that can help you get work or find something purpose-filled to fill your day with. And it's really powerful for people. They get free medication, they can get counseling, all sorts of services, day programs, somewhere to stay where they have assistance. All that stuff is provided for you. And so it's really helpful for people that are dealing with really severe illnesses and symptoms to get help and to get better.
And transportation too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's great.
So let's go back to the 988 program. And for those that don't understand what 988 is, why don't you explain it to them and then your history with it?
Yeah, so we all know what 911 is in this country. It's a 3-digit phone number that you can call and get emergency services. And the idea with 988, it's a 3-digit phone number that anyone in the United States now can call right now for free and get assistance with a crisis. And what do we mean by crisis? A crisis is any time that you feel like your ability to cope with your life is overwhelmed by your life events, right? So the classical one that we always talk about is suicide. If you're feeling suicidal, that is a crisis, right? That kind of makes sense for people, but there's so many things that can count as a crisis. A loved one or a pet passing away can cause a crisis for somebody. A breakup can cause a crisis for somebody. Having difficulty at school can cause a crisis for somebody. PTSD, anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, like any of these conditions can cause it. If you're at risk of losing your home, right? If you're at the risk of becoming homeless, that can cause a crisis. So anytime someone feels like they're in a crisis, that's how we define it. If you feel like you're in a crisis, you're in a crisis, and you can call 988 and get free confidential help.
So how would that work? If you call 988 from Arizona, does somebody in Washington, D.C. answer the phone?
Great answer, or great question. So this actually just updated a couple months ago, but now it's routed geographically. So it wasn't until recently. What happened is you use your area code on your phone is how you determined which call center you would go to. But now it's based on where you're actually located when you make the phone call. So it'll route you to the closest 988 center. It's typically in the same state.
24/7?
24/7, 365. It's a free service provided to everybody.
That's tremendous.
And in Canada too. They started it in Canada as well. Yeah, so it's
same
pretty exciting.
Is it same
988? 988, yeah.
That's good.
And it's also in Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands, anywhere in the United States. Yeah.
So who actually runs all that? Who runs the 988 program?
So the states all have separate contracts, typically with centers in there. So the states fund a big chunk of it, and then the federal government puts some money in as well. So a lot of it is there's different centers in each state, and they have different various ways of getting funded.
So part of your background, you were an aspiring musician.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear a little bit about that, and maybe understand, was there anything in that helps you during this part of your life working with mental health and mental health advocacy?
Yeah, it's really funny because when I was 10 years old, my father showed me Jimi Hendrix, and I was terrified by it. I ran out of the room tearful. I thought I was going to hell. Like, that's how big of feelings I was having. I hadn't had feelings like that. A week later, I was mowing lawns so I could afford to buy a CD player and buy that CD so I could listen to it over and over again. So when I moved to Arizona when I was 14, there was a guitar class there, and I met some guys and we started a band, and that band ended up being something that we put out 4 albums. We were across the whole country. We played in like 30 different states, touring in the band, the whole deal, playing some shows in front of thousands of people. And, there was a couple ways I was thinking on the way down here to this, because it was a great question that you asked me how it impacted it. one, it gave me the comfort of being able to speak to people, right? And getting on stage and talking in front of people. And that's been a big part of what I do. But it also helped me understand like the healing ability of music. Music can be a community for people, and it can be very healing for people. And, that was where I started to see like, oh, we as humans can do things to help other people get along better in life. And that was a really beautiful part of it. But mostly yelling at people on stage, gave me the confidence to go out and do some of these other things.
Was there any part of that time out there that was your favorite part of it? I mean, did you think you were going to ever not get to necessarily Jimi Hendrix level, but did the band as a group think that at some point you were going to really make it big and that was going to be your life?
Had it happened, it would have been nice, I think. I don't have any regrets with what we did because we accomplished everything we wanted to. We played big shows. We played with some of our favorite bands. We got to really develop our own voice as like artists, and I got to experience that. And we were fully committed. Like, we would put on multiple shows a month. We funded the band through our shows. We put out these albums. We got to pay to be on these national tours and go to all these places that we never thought we would be able to, and have all these incredible experiences meeting people all over the country. I still have friends all over the world that I met through music. We were really going for it for a long time. And then, we achieved everything we wanted to. And we decided to really focus. Two of us work in the mental health field. My drummer runs and owns substance use treatment facilities. And then I do this work consulting on 988 and police departments.
But is it unlike many athletes when their careers are over that world just stops and they look around and they think, what am I going to do with my life? And that was everything I've known or cared about. That was what I wanted. I mean, did you go through any kind of depression as you exited that world?
Great question. No, and I feel lucky. I think other people do experience that, but I've decided to live my life, at least over the last 12 years, focused on what I'm passionate about. And as the band was kind of tapering off, this work with 988 and the crisis hotline really grew in my life, and it became much bigger. So I got to move from one passion to another. And it was like this kind of seamless transition from one to the other. And so I don't feel like I lost any of that. I don't have any, like I said, I don't have any regrets about the band. Every once in a while, do I want to play a show? Sure. But my neck and my voice are happy that I don't do that anymore.
I bet. Anything else you want to add for mental health advocacy, mental health awareness month?
I would just like to talk briefly about the process of calling 988, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
So just to be clear, you can call anonymously. So anyone, if you're listening to this right now, you can pick up your phone. It's available to you and dial 988 and it will ring through to them. What's going to happen is you're going to get somebody on the other side of the phone that's a trained professional to talk to you about what's going on, help you feel heard and supported, and then try to find the next step for you. I always like to say it's kind of like going to the emergency room. They're going to get you stabilized in that moment and help you out of that moment of crisis, and then help direct you to where to go. And remember, a lot of people get worried about, will they call the police? Will I get in trouble? Those sorts of things. You can call anonymously. And the only time that we call the police is if someone's in danger and we can't get some sort of plan where we can keep them safe. So just be aware of that. They're going to work with you and try to find a way to keep you safe and help you out of that crisis. But they, that's what the only time that they would call 911 for you.
Great stuff, man.
Yeah.
Matthew, pleasure to know you. Love the work that you do, and just keep going.
Thanks. It's an honor, and I'm glad that we get to keep working together too.
So thanks everybody for listening to this episode of our Mental Health Awareness Month podcast about mental health advocacy. Matthew Moody, president of the board of the Mental Health of America Arizona chapter, and a strong advocate in that field. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for the Mesa Chamber for having us.
Oh, this is a great facility. Thank you, guys.
This has been a Mesa Chamber of Commerce Inside Business podcast. You can find all podcast episodes at iTunes, Spotify, or your own favorite podcast website. You can also find them online at mesachamber.org. Content of this podcast is copyright the Mesa Chamber of Commerce, unless otherwise noted.